workshop.
今天是我们第一天的工作室啊，摄影工作室。
And then we're going to have a few more workshops, okay?
我们会继续办几场。
And then we're going to start with the basics of how to operate a camera and what operates a camera.
我会教你们怎么用照相机和它的基本程序。
Yeah. So today, don't treat me as a professional. I'm just an amateur like you guys. I'm going to learn from you.
今天不要把我当成专业的啊，我就像基本的初学者一样，大家一起研究。
Yeah, we have a special guest today. His name is Robert. He's sitting in the back.
我们今天有一位特别来宾，他的名字叫 Robert， 他是在这里。
Robert is a professional photographer in the Filipino community.
Robert 是一个专业的摄影师，在菲律宾的团体里面。
Yeah, okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to talk, and then if you have any questions, kind of like wait a little bit after a subject, okay, say all of your questions, and then there will be a time when I will answer your questions, so we can keep going.
如果有疑问的话，等我说完了以后，再一个一个解答。你最好是把它写下来。
I don't know. That sounds good, Kevin. You're not selling me, are you?
哪有？I'll put you on the auction.
Okay, we're going to talk about the elements, the important elements that you can learn how to use your camera.
我们现在要讨论的是非常重要的因素，关于你的照相机。
And then also, this element is what's going to release the creativity in you.
这个基本的因素呢，会让你开发你的想象力，开发你的潜力。
Yeah. We're going to be informal today.
我们今天是非正式的啊。
And then we're just going to touch on the mechanics of a camera.
我们会讲一些基本摄像机的结构。
And then how the camera reacts as soon as the light gets in there.
照相机呢会怎么样的反应？当这个光线它采光是如何的处理？
And then we're going to be here for like a few hours, maybe up to like about 6. And then we will divide the hours. The first hour we're going to talk about how you can understand the basic element that will help you operate your camera.
6 sessions or
No,
6 hours.
So we're gonna be here for 3 hours.
我们今天会在这里大约3个小时啊。
Okay, I hope that's not too long, right?
头1个小时是关于所有这个摄影机方面的事情。
Okay, the second hour we're gonna talk about light.
第2个小时我们就要讲光线。
And then the third hour, maybe between the second hour and all the way to the third hour, we're going to be taking pictures. We're going to do some composition.
第3个小时我们要学习照相。
Okay? So how many people have the iPhones and Androids?
Here.
How many people have DSLR like this? You have a DSLR. That's not an iPhone. That's a big DSLR.
谁自己有专业相机？
Okay. So how many have a camera like this today?
没有，
Just Jane?
你也带你的相机吗？
Okay, looks like everybody is going to be, we're going to be talking about iPhone.
我们
And
今
I
天
think Eva has a DSLR now.
我们今天大概会谈论 iPhone 比较多。
Oh, okay. So let's start. Let's start now. What are the basic elements?
第1个基本因素。
Okay. One of the biggest element is light.
第1个基本因素是光线。
Okay? And then light is all around us.
光线在我们的周围，
man-made light or natural light.
人造的或自然的。
Okay? And then now the subject, you need the subject, that's the second element, right?
第二个因素是
It could be everybody here, it could be individual.
第二个是主题，就是你这个人或者这样事情或者这样东西。
Yeah, and then we have optics. You know, the lens.
然后第三个，
That's an important element because that's what takes in the light to the camera.
第三个是一个是第三个是镜头。
Oh, okay. And then the aperture. The aperture is what, it's like a hole in the camera.
第四个是你这个摄像头。
And that's what lets in light. It could be small, it could be bigger. And then we will talk about that in a minute.
它像你的瞳孔一样，它可以放大缩小。
And then we will talk about time. The amount of time that the light is let into your camera.
然后我们会讨论那个采光的时间。
Okay, and the medium. Medium is what records that image that you take, the light. It records it. It's either the chips or the film,
第
right?
三个是储存。储存呢是用底片、胶片或者是电晶卡。
Oh, okay. Here are different samples of cameras. So today you have your iPhone, right?
现
And
在
then we also have like a film camera. And we also have, this is what you call a digital camera.
DSLR 就是电子。
But those 6 principles that I've just told you about, it didn't matter what camera you have because you have to have those 6 basic principles for you to be able to take good pictures.
不管是哪一种相机，刚刚所讲的六个因素啊，都要有的。
Okay, let's talk about this camera. This is a 20-year-old camera.
这一台是20年新的照相机，
I'm going to take off the lens.
我把镜头拿掉。
And then as you see, can you see through this? Probably can't. Oh.
就可以了。照相的时候不要忘了把盖子拿掉。
Okay. Here, I'm going to show this thing to you. Can you see the hole?
你可以看到这个镜头当中的这个洞。
Okay, when I moved it, when I moved it, this is what you call the aperture. When you move it, it goes smaller, right? So that measures the amount of light that limits the amount of light that goes into the camera.
这 aperture 就是它这当中的这个洞，就像你的瞳孔。
Right. Every camera has it, even though you have an iPhone.
每个照相机都有。
Yep, your iPhone has this, except that it works automatic. You just press a button and it measures the light. It tells it automatically how big, how small it opens up. When it's dark, this will open up like that.
如果光线很暗的话呢，它就会打开，整个会打开。
Okay? It opens up. So now the next thing
下一个是
is the shutter. Each camera has what you call a shutter that controls the amount of time that the light goes into the camera.
每一个照相机都会有一个叫 shutter 就是它采光的时间，快门，专业用词叫做快门。
I want to open this up so that you can see.
快门是分之几秒等等。
Okay. Here we go. Here's the shutter now, okay? So the shutter is like when this thing opens up.
可以看到闪一下。
Okay, this opens up, right? Like that. There is a mirror inside it so that you can see through the viewfinder.
时间越长，采光越紧。
See, there's a mirror. You see the mirror outside? So when you see through this thing, it reflects through a prism. And that's how you can see through this viewfinder. Okay? Each one of your cameras, even the iPhone, except that your iPhone, the viewfinder is in here, right?
即使在你的 iPhone
right here. This is your viewfinder. It works the same way, so you can see it from here, right? So no, the shutter is what we were talking about. It opens up, right? The slower the speed is, the slower it will go. So now if you want to make it faster, like, so you didn't even see that, right? It's like 125 of a second. That's how fast it goes.
刚刚那个是120%。
Okay. Do you guys have any questions about the aperture? About the aperture like this?
你们有没有什么疑问？
Or the shutter? Huh? You know what we can do is there any way that we can move you guys over here? Because this is the way we're looking at it.
可不可以坐靠这边一点？大家随便把那眼睛做的近一点，前一点。
There we go. Okay, now I'm going to put this back, right? See, like in this camera, the medium is a film.
像这个照相机，它的储存体是用胶卷底片。
It goes right through. This is the shutter. This is the medium, right? It goes right through it. The light goes through inside the lens, and then this thing measures the amount of light that goes in, and so as the shutter. The aperture measures it, and so as the shutter.
底片装在后面，那光线经过了这个镜头，然后用快门来处理。
Okay.
看这采光多少。
So these things are measured.
即使是你的手机也是一样。
This is what we call the aperture, the f-stop. This thing here that opens up. You know when I show you.
上面1.4、2.8、5.6这些呢，是代表了。
This thing that opens up. Okay. This is the aperture. We call that the aperture.
aperture。这个像你的瞳孔一样。
They are measured. The smallest one right here is like when it's wide open like that, right? As you go smaller and smaller, it goes all the way up to from here. From here, the opening is big. It gets smaller and smaller and smaller until you get most of the lenses have it up to here, and some of them, the long lenses, they have it up to here. So this is how small it is.
越长的镜头，它的洞就越小。
Okay? So each one of even your iPhone has this inside it. You just don't see it. Okay? So now the shutter. Remember we were playing with this thing? When you open up, and then now if you go a little faster, it's going to go fast. Right? You don't see it? It goes from here, called bulb. Bulb is when you open it up, and you can time it yourself. They say you're taking pictures at night, and then you need a lot of light to get into the camera.
It's called bulb.
It's yeah, the name is bulb, B-U-L-B.
Bulb.
Right? So it opens up, like if you're taking a picture of the moon or something, it takes like 10 seconds, so you get your watch, you look at it, and then you count 10 seconds, and then you just let it go. Some cameras will go 10 seconds, you don't even have to do that. If you want it longer, like half a minute, or maybe 1 minute, 60 seconds, then you're gonna hold this, go get a timer, you're taking a picture of the moon, and it goes open up for 1 minute, right? And then you let it go. So that's a shutter. So you get the bulb, it goes from 30 seconds, 15 seconds, you will see it on the side where you can arrange it. It'll go, this is the measurement of per stops. Okay, it goes from bulb all the way down to 1/8,000th of a second. If you take a look at your camera, you will have like a 1/8,000th of a second in there.
如果要照，比如说照月球的话，
Right?
要把快门打开来。
This is the part that will take like a few minutes because it's important. Okay? Just say just say that you're at 2.8. You have a light meter, right? You have a light meter, and your light meter says it's going to be a 2.8 opening. Then this would be like a 2.8, right? And then now it says 1/500 of a second. So you set it up, you have a light meter, right? It goes 2.8 at 500 of a second. So you're going to set that up at 2.8 at 1/500 of a second, especially when this age is right up there.
这指的呢，一个就是一个光线感应器，会告诉你说这个是多强多强。
Okay? So when you change this, just say that you don't want to use 2.8, you want to use 11. So there's like 1, 2, 3, 4. There's like 4 different stops. Okay? So now what you have to do is you have to reduce this thing 4 steps. Right? Now you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you're going to be here. Like 11 at 1/30. It is the same amount of exposure at 2.8 at 1/500 of a second. But the only difference is that you're looking for a different effect. Okay? Any questions?
有没有什么疑问？
Go ahead.
So what's the normal the amateur we use? Normal number of amateur we use, and what's the shutter speed we use for the regular like the lights right like this?
Right.
So what kind of number we choose?
Okay, just say that there's another thing that controls it. I was going to talk about it later, but since you already had it, it's called the ISO. The ISO is like an international organization for standards. It's how they measure how quickly your medium, like you have a chip in here, how quickly it can record the image, right? If it's very, very dark, you can go up to like it measures in 100, 200 ISO.
ISO 是一个国际标准。
400. You see that in your, but on iPhone you won't see it. I'm just explaining it to you right now, right? 800 because your iPhone will record this thing automatically.
iPhone 这些都是自动。
Will adjust it automatically.
那个按小数没有关系。
Okay. When you take a picture with your iPhone, like dark, you don't know that, but it automatically adjusts it. So you might be taking ISO like 800 in this room right here. And then it will measure, it will adjust this thing however it can. It will probably adjust it like about maybe 5.6 and about maybe 1/125 of a second.
That's pretty regular.
That's pretty average. Without, just, like you're estimating it. So now on a bright sunlight like that, you'll probably be like about 5.6 and 125 if you're at ISO 100. Right? Okay, now, you're going to ask me now, why is there a 1.4 and a 1/30th or f32? That's probably a lot of people will ask that, right? What is the use of that, right? This will take in more light because it has a big opening when we open it up.
为什么要有1.4？会一直到32，因为它的光线。
See, this will take in more light, right? And at the same time, if it's really dark, like here, and you're using like 100 ISO, this will take in more light so that you can have a faster shutter speed. Because what happens is like if your shutter speed becomes like 1/8 of a second. So even in your iPhone, you'll probably see that when you take a picture and it's dark and your hand moves, right? What happens is you have a blur. Am I correct? So
如果
now,
在这里比较弱的光线，那如果它的快门速度比较慢的话，你手就会震动，它就照出来的效果就很模糊。
so now what you want to do is like in the evening, you probably want, or when it's dark, you would probably want to shoot like somewhere around here. In this vicinity, if you have a camera, I mean like a DSLR, at least this. Okay? So now, if you're at like 1/60th, say it would be like a 2.8, you're able to do that to get the proper exposure.
如果到晚上的话呢，可能会用1/60或加上2.8的这个采光光圈大小。
And then now we're gonna kind of like prime this thing real quickly so we can start shooting out there. This also affects it in different ways. The bigger your aperture is, the less depth of field. Depth of field is how far. If you just say that you're taking my picture. If it's at 1.4, my nose will probably be in focus, but my ears will probably not going to be in focus. Right? You understand the part of it?
如果光圈越大，你照的影像就越近，你没办法同时采取它比较深度。
Okay.
你的脸是立体的。
So now,
如果用1.4的话呢，你鼻子可能会
yeah, if you're 1.4, so now if you want a farther depth of field, a bigger depth of field, so you want the nose in focus all the way up to this board, right? You would probably want to increase that to like about 8, right?
就是说你要照能够你的脸一直到后面那个板都要很清晰的话，那你可能就会说8。
So you mean the bigger aperture, the smaller number,
Yeah.
the bigger aperture.
Yes.
Then it's like you can't focus too much further, like from the front and the back.
Center.
The center, yeah.
Very
depth.
Big, yeah.
Very shallow.
Very shallow. You only can focus on one,
Yes.
yeah. But
Yeah.
if it's like 32,
Mhm.
you can focus front and the back too.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you can focus further. But what it does, see, it's a good thing you're asking a question. What it does is when you now just say you're an F-16, right? This thing gets smaller, right? So now it's not letting in enough light. Now you have to adjust your shutter speed. Instead of going fast, you gotta make your shutter speed slower to allow more light
Because
in.
the aperture was small.
Yeah.
因为光线太少。
Okay? So that's the reason why people use tripods like that, so that you don't have to shake. So now, if
所以
you're
为什么用三脚架？为了
F8,
这样的话才
if you're F8, just say F16. You're talking about to get everything in focus. You might want to be shooting like about 1/2 of a second. You know, 1/2 of a second is not fast enough. You will have the shake. So now you use a tripod, but you can get a lot of you get a lot of things in focus from the front to the back. Okay. So that's how these things operate. And then now you're going to get complicated later on when we talk about this. So the camera, like what Jing has, it has an automatic ISO. So if you are F11, and then instead of going all the way down to 1/2 second, you can limit it to, you can command the camera and say, well, we don't want to have it anything less than 1/30th of a second, right? So now what happens is like the camera will automatically adjust going from 100 all the way up to 1, 2, 3, just say 4 stops, all the way up to 800. So that you can take a picture of 1/30th of a second. Where is it 1/30? 1/30th of a second at 16. Does that make sense?
Can you repeat that again?
Okay.
ISO is how long the film or the medium needs to be developed, correct?
Yes.
ISO 就是比如说你的
Let me simplify. There are 3 things that it takes to make a proper exposure. Okay? There are those 3 things. One is the aperture, which is the f-stop. One is the shutter speed, right? And one is like they used to call it film speed. So now this is the speed of the medium. Okay? So now,
曝光
go ahead.
They used to call it film sensitivity.
There you go. The film sensitivity.
So there used to be a 400 film.
Yeah.
A 400 film was for nighttime because it's faster, it takes more light.
Yeah?
And then the regular Kodak film that you buy was just 100. ISO 100.
They used to call it, in the film era, they used to call it ASA. So now, this is the ISO is like an international organization of standardization. Okay, they standardize measures. So they came up with this. They removed the ASA, they came up with the ISO, right? So now, in the film days, it only used to go up to like 800. And then now you have to do some manipulation in your developing, which I've learned how to do that. You push the film, the term is you push the film from 800 to like 1600. You double the amount of developing. Okay, that's the only way. But now, we don't need that. We don't even want to think about film. It's all about your ISO and your medium of the chips. What do you call that? The sensor. It's called the sensor, right?
加一些说是模式。
Okay. So these are the measures of that. All the way down. Some of them now, like that camera, will probably go all the way to like 50,000 ISO. It's going to multiply this 12,000, 25,000, 50,000, 50,000 ISO. Okay? The reason why. So now if you're shooting at 1600 or 3200 ISO like it's dark, you're able to get a faster shutter speed and what do you call this thing? A bigger f-stop, or a smaller measure of the f-stop here to get things in focus. Because if you shoot at 1.4, you know that only a portion of a person is going to be in focus, right? So now if you're shooting at 8, you can pretty much have like maybe 5 or 6 feet latitude between the front and the back of it. And then because of the ISO, because the speed of the medium, you're able to get a faster shutter speed, right? But there is a sacrifice for that. This is clean. There are no grains. You will notice that. Sometimes when you take your iPhone photos outside, where it's nice and bright, it's nice and clear, right? But when you take a picture at night, or when it's dark, you will see a lot of grains, right? Do you guys get that part of it? You notice that, right? So now, that is the reason why the higher the speed that your camera takes, the ISO, the dirtier it is, or the grainier that it becomes. So now we're gonna take up a couple of pictures so that you can see what I mean. Okay? So I'm gonna look it up. Kevin, can we help this out?
Sure.
But first, do we have any questions?
有没有什么疑问？
Huh? Do we have any questions? Go ahead, sir.
Do you know the iPhone tells you what aperture and shutter speed it uses when you take a picture?
What happens to the shutter speed?
Can the iPhone tell you what shutter speed and aperture it uses when it takes the picture?
The iPhone itself, in the iPhone can't do it, but when you, like I can tell because I use Adobe Lightroom. So when I put all the memory, when I transfer the memory into my Lightroom, it gives me what you call the metadata, right? It tells you that all the f-stop.
你用 iPhone 的时候照相，它所有的资料会跟着这个你所采取收集的这张相片，就是说会全部都是这些资料。所以当你用这个软体的时候呢，它会讲出来。那有没有可能那个 iPhone 还有那个软体可以download，所以这些会显示？有可能的，这是没有可能。
Did that explain it?
Yeah, there might be an app for the iPhone or for Android.
You know what? I don't know if
They're able to see.
I don't know if iPhoto does it, because I don't use iPhoto that much. But I'm sure that it should. It will tell you. But but this right here, this program that I use, I will show you
这是
what
的
I.
这个软体，这一张相片的资料全部都有。
Here, I'll show you this. Yes. This is what I mean metadata. Okay. Here is the start of the metadata. Can you see it? On the right side, or right here?
看得到这张相片的那个资料吗？
Okay, like this today, I was fussing around with this water bottle, and I took a picture of it. Now it tells you that I was shooting in RAW, right? This is not JPEG. You don't want to bother with that. And it is like 15 megabytes of memory. That's a lot. iPhones normally will take like 2 megabytes.
像这张相片啊，是 RAW file，它不是像你一般的你看到你的照片照出来是 JPG 对吧？它那个有不同的standard标准。这个呢就很纯粹的就是电子档。 那这一张相片占了15点几个 MB 的这个位置。一般你的 iPhone 的话呢，就在大概
And then here, it will tell you this was shot at 1/10 of a second.
1/10秒，对吧？这张效果是
Okay? The ISO speed right here is at 640.
640 ISO。
And then it doesn't say the opening of the lens because the lens that I was using over here is a manual lens. This is like a 1960.
它这个照相机呢，它装上去的这镜头，
Yeah, but I will tell you it was like a,
太老的镜头造成的。
it was at 5.6, f5.6, at 1/10 of a second, ISO 640. Okay, so now I will show you now how it changes.
我现在让你们看到它怎么改变。现在照一张相。
This is a manual lens, so I have to manually focus it.
这个镜头是手调的，不是自动的。它的焦距是要用手机调整。
Okay, this is at 1.8.
这是1.8。
See this water bottle right here?
你看到这个水平量，
See this is at 1.8, this is at focus, right?
有一
So
种
now
精
you
确
will,
的。
so now you will see the data of this. This is at a 1/200 of a second.
这个是1/200秒的速度。
Same thing, 640 ISO.
ISO 它是460。
And then 1.8, the aperture is 1.8.
它的这个是1.8。
See how the shallow, we were talking about the shallow depth of field is, this is not in focus anymore.
它刚刚你
The
讲
water
的
bottle.
那个如果镜头投出一个大，就越浅。
So now we've changed it. We're gonna do like 5.6.
现在我改到5.6。
See this water bottle now? This is at 5.6.
5.6。
Huh? See, this is more in focus now than the last one. The last one was not. See that? Right? So this is at 1.8. This is like twice. We upped it up twice, the aperture. So now this is at 5.6, right? But the problem is like now instead of 1/200 of a second, we went down to 1/20. What does that say? 125. So that's pretty slow shutter speed, right? Do you guys have questions on this? Go ahead, sir.
Okay, so the 5.6 5.6 is a smaller opening, but the shutter speed is also slower, right?
Yes,
So you have to hold it steady.
yes.
Now, if you go to like an aperture of 22, when you get focus of the person in the back, you look at that picture, the man in the background. Can you get focus of everyone in the shot if you make the aperture very higher, f22 or something?
Well, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna push the ISO. We'll push the ISO to like about we'll push the ISO to like about 1600. Okay.
Or you change
We're
the
gonna
ISO.
go put this thing on. We can go as far as like F16 on this. It's gonna be a little blurred for the reason that it's gonna be really slow shutter speed. Let's see if I can hold it. Right there.
Yeah.
That's at F16. So now Robert is almost in focus. See, this is an old lens, it only goes to F16. So if we have an F22 lens, I'm almost sure that Robert will be in focus. The people in the back. But Kevin most probably would have been in focus if we were seeing him. So now let's take a look at this is what you call the metadata.
You'll see the reflection on my head.
Yeah, your head is in focus, right? So now we went to 1/5 of a second. That's pretty slow. And then it is at ISO 1600. Remember the ISO that says there? I speed it up a little bit so that I can, because if that was still at the 640 ISO, that would have been like about maybe 1 second already. And then that definitely is going to get blurred. Okay, without a tripod. Okay, question. Is this making sense?
Yes.
Okay. Even if you have an iPhone, and your iPhone will probably never use this, I want you to understand the principle behind it. Even today, even if you have to attend a couple of these classes, because we will repeat this thing so that you guys will understand. Because it's very important. You will find out later on when you learn how, when you're composing shots. If you're taking a picture of the mountain, you want everything in focus, right? Here, you fall asleep with my translator.
Everybody's doing well, so sorry.
They understood this thing?
都了解吗？
They
不
got
了
it?
解的举手。不知道的举手。
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure that you guys get that part.
That's good.
No questions? Guys, no
Very good.
questions? Okay, let's see what I think we've explained that. See now, no matter what camera that you're using, even if you use a film camera, digital camera, an iPhone, an Android, everything applies. But the only difference is that the iPhones and the Android, you cannot set it on manual. The camera does all the thinking for you. It compensates automatically. There's a common denominator on your setup. If you have a phone that has a setup, landscape, portrait, what do you call this thing, people or something of that sort, when you put it on portrait, that means your phone is going to choose the bigger the 1.4 or the 2.8 or the 5.6, the bigger opening on the lens. If you're choosing a landscape on your DSLR or your point and shoot, if it's capable of manual, if you can find, like if you want things in focus, find landscape, it will automatically set it up to like a higher f-stop and a slower, hopefully a slower shutter speed. Go ahead.
Well, if the camera is so smart and it automatically selects the optimal combination of different factors for you, then why would you desire to do that manually? I mean, as a professional.
Okay, that's a very good question. Okay, the reason why, so I can reduce my voice here.
我们为什么要用
The reason why you would want to do that is there is a time. Just say, let me think of a subject because I take a lot of event photos. Just say I'm taking a picture of an entertainment, right? At night.
像一个表演者？
I want to be able to get enough focus in this person. I don't want to use 1.4 or 2.8 because it's tough to get a sharp focus. So I have to use a minimum of 5.6 or a 6.1, and then let me go back down here.
比如说，我现在要照一个演员，一个表演者。那一般的话呢，用2.8。
Okay.
那如果我用6的话呢，它的多去了，比较快。2.8太慢。
So okay, I'm taking a picture of somebody on stage, right?
有人在舞台上。
Let me answer this question. I'm taking a picture of somebody on stage, and I don't want to use this 1.4, even though it will give me enough light for the reason that if he's moving around, I might just not take him not in focus, right? So I want to use maybe this. But the modern cameras, in between this is like one stop at a time, okay? The modern cameras are able to do a 1/3 stop that you will see a 6.3, right? An 8 point something, 9.1. I might want to use this or a 6.3 or a 7.1 is the one that's next to it. So that I can get more of the person in focus. But what happens is like you're asking me if the camera is doing all the thinking, why would you want to do it manually, right? My first intent is I want to make sure that the subject is in focus. The second intent, if he's moving around, I want to make sure that my speed is at least 1/60th of a second. If I follow him, I should be able to catch him properly, right? So that I don't have to use such a high ISO. Because normally you would use this. If it's at night, if you're just using like the lights here, you would use, and this is pretty dirty. It's not clean, you will get a lot of grain. So you want to shoot as slow of an ISO as you can, right? So normally just say, this will probably be my ISO. I can still, if I have a modern camera, it will come out clean. But this is kind of like questionable. That's another subject. There's a big difference between a smaller frame camera like what I use, called a cut rough frame, and a full frame. We'll talk about that later. So now we're using 1600 ISO. I'm catching the person in focus, right? And I'm now panning so that it doesn't come out blurred at 1/60. Now, if I'm not able to do that, I might have to go at 1.5. If I want to maintain this at 7.1, if that's a proper exposure, I want to bump it up to 125, then I would have to increase this from 1600 to 3,200 to compensate. Does that answer your question? See, these are the things that go through your mind when you're out there taking pictures. Because it's very rare that I would shoot in automatic. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, this is kind of to respond to her question, why? It really depends. If you're trying to be a professional photographer
Yeah.
or just point and shoot.
Right.
If you're happy with just point and shoot, you can just get in camera and push the button and the camera will make the decision. But if you're trying to be a professional photographer, it's very different. And I'll draw an analogy. Let's assume you went to a clothes store and you wear size, whatever size you wear. Now you could buy your clothes small, medium, and large. And that would kind of get you there. Or you could buy size 2, size 4. That would kind of get you there.
Yeah.
But to really get there, you want to have a tailor come in and custom make it for your length of your arms, your width of your body, and that fit is going to be for you. That's the analogy, so that you can easily understand that.
The question was, why would you want to use this when you are already using a camera that will set the focus, everything for you automatically? I was just merely answering.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Right.
And the last thing is this.
Right.
When the camera does everything for you, you really don't learn how to use the camera. You don't know what the ISO is. You don't know all those different things because you really never set them. If you really want to understand the camera, you really have to go and use all those individual things. Then you will really understand not only what the camera is doing, but why it's doing that, and how to make it react the way you want it to react.
You know what? That's a very good point, sir. We're teaching these people actually a little bit of the basics, okay? Because they're all into iPhones.
Right.
So I'm just explaining a little bit.
No, I understand. I'm just trying to clarify.
Okay.
Where's
Did I answer
crystal
your
clear?
question? Next question. Does anybody have a question?
Can you put that, can we put that on here so we can see?
Oh,
That board, yeah.
oh, and then it's gonna be done.
Is that possible? Oh, it's okay. It's all right. Now I just do this.
Can you see it now?
No, I'll just do it.
Why don't you sit over here?
Oh, can you guys?
But you know what? Most of you guys will probably never ever use this. I just want to explain the basics of why the camera reacts the way it does. So now you have an iPhone. You're trying to figure out, it's automatic now, okay? Basic principles now. You have to learn how your camera operates or how your camera reacts. Like to me, my iPhone, I know I am very safe. When I'm in my distance here to Kevin, that my flash is going to be perfect when I use the flash on my iPhone, right? I already know that. So when I take pictures at night, I don't have my DSLR and I just have my iPhone. I know that for me to have a good photo, which is well lit up, the most important part is of the photo is your subject, right? I know that I have to be in this distance right here, away from Kevin, to get a proper exposure. Because your iPhone is not operating manually.
我要是我用我的手机，我知道我在这个距离上用自动照，一定是照相很好，因为这个光线啊等等有自动照相。但如果你再远一点，你再广一点，你再闪光点，就不一定有这个差别。
Leah,
Yeah.
you have a question?
No, I just want to make sure if they can see that.
现在所学的，就是说你知道一些基本的，现在他知道绝大部分都用手机来照吧等等，但是你要照一个好的相片，你这个基本的知道，你就比较有概念，就要开始。
Was that clear to them? Okay, any more questions? Because now we're going to go to the practical. I want you guys to bring out your iPhones. Okay, together with your DSLR, we're going to do some experiment. We'll talk about light. We'll talk about light, right? Ava, do you have that little reflector that you have? That white one? See, every one of you guys, there are times that I actually, because I kind of like understand how light operates, you know, I always bring a white handkerchief with me. Because I use this thing as my reflector most of the time.
通常都会带一条白色的手机，做反光用。
Right? Because most of the time, a lot of people like taking pictures in the sun where the sun is right there and you're taking a picture of me here, right? And then all of a sudden you're squinting because it's real bright. And then when you turn a little bit, the shadow gets really harsh and you can't figure out how come it turned out like that, right?
Yeah.
So now, 2 tricks.
先教你一些方法啊。通常正面太阳照的，
Right? 2
你
tricks.
就眯起来。
We're gonna need Thanks a lot, Robert. Let's give
Thank you.
Robert a hand.
Thank
Yes,
you.
we go.
You're in good hands.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Robert is a professional photographer. He's a friend of mine. So, you see my
所以
handkerchief?
我现在要教你一个方法，就是说怎么样子照。
See, taking good pictures is really very, very simple if you understand light. Okay? Light casts terrible shadows. But you have the tool, you have your iPhone, right? She has a DSLR. This is big as this. My gosh, you guys, the girls get all the big cameras. You know, and I carry around a 1967 special. We were talking about the flash. That's going to be my next camera. I'm switching to Sony. Sony has the technology. What was I talking about? The flash, the iPhone. Now the conversation is going to switch. Earlier I was talking about manual, right? On how, even though right now that maybe you do not understand that, later on down the line it's going to click in your mind on why all of a sudden when you're taking pictures it turns out blurred, it turns out dark, it turns out overexposed. This is a combination of these 3. Something failed.
在以后你照相的时候，
Right?
出来的不清楚你就知道。
So now we're taking a picture. In a few minutes we'll go outside so you can see.
一会儿我们在外面去试
We
一
can make a
试
good
啊。
point, okay? Can we have you? Can you be my model?
做我的模特儿。
Okay. See, just stand sideways a little bit. Maybe over here. Maybe over here. Yeah. Even though we're using this incandescent light or fluorescent light, just go right there. You can see this dark shadow right there, right?
看到那个影子。
Okay. So now, if I was taking a picture, because I love doing this thing, and when I'm in a restaurant, sometimes the food looks good, and my wife likes to put it on Facebook. And she's gonna tell me, "Hon, you gotta take a picture of this food so I can put it on Facebook." But see, everybody knows that I take good pictures, so I don't want to take a bad picture and put it on Facebook and people know that I took it, right? So now, I will have like my handkerchief or a napkin or something like that, and I will just kind of like go right next to the food. You know, you can see the effect right away of how the shadow is reduced, right? You can see, maybe this is even better because this is a bigger light. Yeah, very faint, but you can see it. But when you take a picture, all of a sudden you have this strong shadow. Okay? So now, if you're taking pictures in daylight, just say you're outside, and the sun is blaring out there, and you get a terrible shadow. So now we were talking about your iPhone. You have to know what the distance, the most effective distance of your iPhone when you use the flash. But I don't know to this day if the flash will go on if you're outside in daylight. I think iPhones will only turn the flash on if it's dark, if it senses it, right? So your only chance is if you're taking a picture of somebody, you don't have to carry one of these, but you will always have like a...
你要试试看你的那个 iPhone 的话，如果光线很强。
But you will always have something, a handkerchief or an umbrella or something, or a book that you're carrying. If your purse is white or light, make sure that it doesn't reflect color or something like that. It may be one of the... I always carry a black shirt in my car for the reason that every time that we went to Bellagio or somewhere, I like to take a picture of a flower, right? And then all of a sudden there's a horde of people in the background. You cannot take a nice picture of the Bellagio of the flowers. So I get my black shirt or my jacket and I hang it up somewhere and I ask somebody to hold it. So now the background is dark. See, you have to be a little bit more industrious in taking your pictures. There's a big difference between people walking by and seeing a nice dark background and your flower here. You don't have to do a lot of touching up, right? Just thinking ahead. So if I'm gonna actually, then we're gonna take a couple of pictures. I would like can you stand? Can you guys just kind of like look over here, right? What's your name, sir? Richard. Yeah, if you just kind of like stand right here. Right. Right there. See the terrible shadow? See, not unless you have a flashlight, if you have a camera like yours, you can turn on that flash and it will kind of like equalize the other side of it. Okay, so now what we want to do, take a look at the difference. Go take a picture of it. You guys have an iPhone. See, I have a handsome model. Okay, take a look at your picture now. Right. So now, let's go. Now you take a picture. Okay, with this reflector. Now I want you to see the effect of it. That's a big difference, isn't it? You got it? Did you take a picture of this one? Okay. See, even like she's wearing a jacket. I'll show you how you can be so. Can I use your jacket? Can you take off your jacket?
他用借手的夹克夹，行李穿衣。
No, you gotta be creative. So now you're walking around the street. There are two ways that you can do it. You can make her stand right next to him so it reflects, or you can just basically do this. Yeah, take a look at it. Take a picture. That's a big difference. This will be a lot easier to retouch than the other one. Yeah. But see now I used her jacket. It's the not color.
Oh, yeah, I need that.
This is
Maybe
maybe.
it's not, no. Yes, this,
There we go.
yeah, with the normal stuff.
You can actually ask him to hold the jacket while you're taking his picture.
Yeah, good.
See that?
Don't forget Facebook 啊。
See, this is what I'm talking about. This is what we're going to learn, okay? Like at night, pretty much the same thing. So now, if you're out somewhere, you can use the same principle. You carry a handkerchief or a clipboard, something of that sort, and then you just kind of like put it again. Because when you take a picture, it bounces, the light bounces.
Yes, yes.
You ready?
It's been very light.
Okay. Okay. What we're gonna do is you know how it is when you take a picture. Let me just draw this in. Let me erase this. We're done with it. I have a, maybe the next time I'll show it to you. I have a small tripod that I ordered from eBay. You know those things that have like little balls and you can adjust them and you can wrap them around the post and stuff like that. It's big enough to carry hold a DSLR. I paid like, I think $750 and they shipped it, right? I use that. That is my favorite tripod. It is so important that if you want to take good pictures that are sharp, you have to practice carrying your cameras, your iPhone, your whatever, and putting them on a tripod. Okay? Don't get lazy, because you can walk around with this thing, because you can fold the legs, you can hold it with you, right? And not only that, that's the best way to take a selfie. Right? You can just put it in there and then take a picture of yourself. But anyway, if you can grab one of those, because especially like iPhone when it gets dark, what happens is like your iPhone figures out the shutter speed. Sometimes it goes all the way down to like 1/15. I've looked at it in some of my. I forgot to bring my other hard drive because when I go to California, I use my. This is what I use. I use my iPhone. I don't carry my. And you should see some of the pictures that I take in Disneyland with that iPhone. But I use the principles. I understand shutter speed. That at night when it gets dark, you're going to be down to like about 1/15th of a second. And then, you know, it's hard to be holding a camera with one hand and taking a picture and not get that shake, right? But if you have this little tripod that I was talking to you about, you should always have that, like every time it gets dark or you're taking pictures indoors, okay? Because you can set it on tables, chairs, wrap it around here. And then just, you know, make sure that it's steady and you take a picture. You know, I'm not afraid to carry a tripod or a monopod. You know, sometimes when it gets dark and you take pictures of sports and stuff, you know that stick, it's like they call it a monopod. It's not a tripod, it's just like a stick that they attach to a camera. That is the reason that once you get up to like about 1/30th of a second, 1/15th of a second, 1/8 of a second, you don't handhold your cameras anymore. Because not unless you're really, really steady, and especially if you're using a long lens, that magnifies the shape, right? So you need one of those. Okay, remember that. Just get one of those little tripods. It's $7. Okay. So now, next exercise. You notice that when you take pictures, sometimes when people are walking, sometimes you like that effect, where all of a sudden you're taking a picture of somebody and then they're walking and it gets blurred. Right? It looks like somebody shook your camera. Right? So now I'll teach you a couple of effects on that. If you want the background, kind of like say we're going to go out there on the street, right? Here's your subject, right? And then cars are going by. If you focus on this, if you keep your camera still, and you take a picture of that, these cars, if they're going by, they're going to be blurred. Right? Am I correct? Because it's moving faster. Right? So now, that's one effect. You might want to, okay, I want people that are walking by to be blurred. I'm out there on the strip and I want my subject to be in focus. It's at night. I want to be able to make sure that my subject is lit up, right? So now we're going to find out, you're going to find out, what is the most effective distance from you to your subject when you use the flash on your iPhone. Okay? Because iPhones, those are weak flashes. You don't take a picture of somebody from here to where you're at. That's about 15, 20 feet. The effective flash distance of an iPhone is somewhere around 5 to 6 feet. So you will always be conscious of that. You never take a flash picture, not unless you're 6 feet away from your subject, right? If you want to take good flash photos. So now, you're 6 feet away from
消距离大约就5、6尺，就才记得住。
So now you want to be, there's your subject, cars are moving, so now the subject is still, you take a picture, you get a nice photo. But now, you're thinking, oh well, what we want to do is now your grandchildren, your children, your friends are all moving, and you want to take a good picture of them. You want them to be still, right? So now this person is moving this way. This is what you call panning. So that you want to freeze them, you have to follow the subject, kind of like this. So the subject is moving, right? So now you have to follow the subject like that, and then you shoot the photo. Okay? Or somebody is in a swing, right? So now you got to you have to follow the subject. Or somebody is in a motorcycle, right? Sports. Somebody's playing basketball. You don't take a picture and you sit here and just click. Because what happens is the first picture that we're talking about. Anything that's moving will get blurred. But if somebody was moving, now you follow them. It's called panning. You're moving with the subject. And then you click. Okay? So what we're going to do is, but yours is automatic. The iPhone is automatic. I think it will just automatically adjust for the speed. So if you have like a DSLR like yours, what you want to do is you want to get that effect like this, because you want to get like a 1/30th of a second. You see cars going by? You go like 1/30th of a second, right? You take a picture of your subject standing here, and then now you'll get it blurred. Okay? So now if you can only go 1/30th of a second and your subject is moving, now you're going to have to follow the subject. so the subject is not blurred. Do you guys get that? Okay, well, let's practice that. Okay, don't follow the cars. Just take a picture.
This is standing here.
Yeah, just stand over here. When the car is moving, take a picture. How is it? Kind of like blurry a little bit? Yeah, so now, the next shot that you do, you follow the car. Yeah.
Very fast, this
Huh?
fast,
No, what I want you to do is just shoot straight. Okay, just like 1/30 of a second. And then now the next one you follow the action. Okay, like what? Like here, I'm gonna shoot. Did you guys take the pictures? See the effect of what I'm showing you when it's dark. You know, it's like when it's darker, because now the shutter speed on your iPhone or Android is going to slow down. You will see the effect of that, because right now the shutter speed on that is very fast. So it's hard to tell the big difference, but at night you will definitely see it. So, but the main thing is you're learning, you know, a different technique. Okay? So, what other things would you like to learn, or would you like to improve on your iPhone? When you're taking pictures. Huh?
That's a good question.
Right? Okay. Composition. We're going to go to composition now. And this is going to be fun. What we're going to do is we're going to repeat a little bit of this, and what we learned today, and then the next time I'm going to give you a little bit more advanced stuff. Okay? Next time I'm going to teach you how to pose people a little bit better, so that it looks natural. When they look at the camera, they don't look wide. You know, they look a little skinnier, or you know. It takes a little effort to do that, because you have to be very detail oriented. There's nothing worse than taking a picture of somebody, all pretty face and stuff, and then the hair is all over the face, you know what I mean? So those are little things. Before you take pictures, you kind of like clean the person up a little bit, you know? But right now we're going to learn composition. This is easy. We're going to go out there again. And then you guys are going to take pictures of each other. You guys are going to be each other's models. Okay? We're going to practice on that. Okay, here's how the viewfinder of your iPhone or your camera look like. Okay? And your subject is standing right next to the building like that. Right? So you can align it. Like you will have this line. So you can line up the subject, or the post, or the building. So you have to align them. Okay? So when you take a picture of something and you're looking at a building, you line up like a corner or something of that sort, or line up your subject kind of like not perpendicular, parallel to these lines. So they're straight. Right? Because sometimes when you take a picture, it looks like this. The subject is like that, and the post is like this, and you're taking a picture and it's square and it doesn't look right, right? You guys understand that? Yes. Okay. Okay, composition. Another reason they put that line is in composition. You better translate here, Kevin, just in case, okay? There's what you call the rule of thirds. The rule of thirds is the rule of 1/3. You have these crosshairs on your camera, okay? So when you're taking in art, when you're taking a picture, you want the eyes of somebody who's looking at the picture to kind of like not focus on the subject right away. You want the eyes to kind of like lead onto your subject, right? That's art. Sometimes there's like, just say you're taking a picture vertically.
组成
So your eyes
1/3.
you're taking a picture vertical, right? And then sometimes there's a house over here. And now you're gonna have that line, right? And then now there's a road that goes like this, that leads up to the house. And there's some trees over here, right? But your main focus is this house, right? But you want somebody's eyes, when you're looking at that art, you want them to kind of like look, follow that line, and into your subject. Because if you put the house in the middle, it doesn't look too good, right? When you put the house, this is the way you compose. You put them on the 1/3. This is 1/3, right? This line is the 1/3. This line is the 1/3. Sometimes you would probably put it moving even right in the crosshair, like that. That's
艺
with
术
your
是
subject.
你要带领看的人的眼睛，领着他去看到你的主题。你如果把所有的主题，比如说这一张相里面的主题是这栋房子，而你却把这栋房子总是摆在中间，那这个就没有艺术。艺术是带领的。易经说为什么分割为1/3？纵向和直向。
And another thing, see, sometimes when you take a picture, instinctively, your instinct is to put the head right in the middle, right? That's the first instinct. You just you take a picture, right? So there's a big head over here. Right? This is like a passport or the picture for the government requires you to actually have the picture right in the middle of the face right in the middle of the picture and the ears showing, right? Okay. But in actuality, if you're doing a portrait, start looking at the magazines so that you will get the idea. So now when you take a photo of somebody, you want to put the head about here. This becomes a negative space. What happens is the eye is led into the subject. It's not like, oh, the subject's right there. You know, it's a little bit more because that's how the mind works better. Okay, in art, you want to put the subject about right here. Or you can put them about right here. Right? And if it's laying down, if your subject is in a... Take a look at some of the photos that I've taken for you guys. Just say that somebody is laying down and here's the person, there's the chair, right? And then the leg is like that, right? Sitting on a chair, reclining or something like that. That's how you take the picture. It's not like all of a sudden you take the picture like this person there's the chair and his leg is over there and it's right in the middle. It doesn't look too good. Right? So now we learned something today. That is the reason why they have what you call the rule of thirds. That's why they put that crosshair in your camera. So that now you can put your subject here, you can put your subject there, you can put your subject here, subject there, or somewhere around the 1/3, somewhere around the 1/3, or somewhere over here, over there, over here, over there. It's just very simple, right? So now you're going to put it all together. There's a lot of things to remember. When you're taking flash pictures, you kind of like, if you have an iPhone, you don't want to be that far from the iPhone, right? You want to be like this far, and then now you're going to position your crosshair instead of right in the middle. You're going to kind of like on the 1/3, on about right here. Yeah, kind of like about right here. As long as it's touching that 1/3, it could be a little over here. As long as it's touching that 1/3, it makes it a lot better, right? So if you're taking a picture of somebody, I want you to practice. We're going to go out there again in the shade, okay? I want you to practice this. I want you to practice vertical, like that, right? On the iPhone, vertical shooting. You're going to get somebody on the wall in the shade. Here's the wall. Here's the 1/3, right? This is going to be the wall, right? And your subject is going to be leaning over here. Like going like this, right? But that subject is going to, here's the wall, here's the subject, touching that 1/3. And this is going to be dead space. Make sure that there's not a lot of distraction over here. You gotta avoid bright colors or another wall or something like that. So you're gonna change, you're gonna look at your surrounding. You're going to look at the light and you're going to look at the surrounding. Shade, nice shade, right? Not bright in the backdrop. Just here, if it's bright, you're going to turn on your flash. But you want to make sure that the subject is close to this 1/3 or the other side, facing the other way, right? Or if you want to do it like this, on a horizontal shot, here's the ball. He's going to be your subject right there. And this is going to be what you call negative space. Okay? So let's try it. We'll go outside. Yeah, so you can stand over here and take a picture of somebody right here. You know what I mean? Okay. Who's going to be the model? Zoe. Okay. There you go. And then now, you're going to shoot from right here. See this? Right here? Perfect. Just set it up. As long as she's touching.
拍的最漂亮的拜托传给我。
Yeah, just the subject will be one thing. Now let's take a look at the picture. Like that.
他很会教人家摆 pose。
Very nice.
How's this one?
Oh yeah, matches the color.
That's why you have to kind of like think of this thing. One third.
哎，你救我了！
You're getting it. That's it. That's one third. Yeah.
看这边，看这边。
You know that is good.
哦，第一好，1、2、3。 事先是像你们待会谁要来洗手扫下一下。
Okay, what you want to do is this is built for horizontal. You know, you would want to take a horizontal. It's good for square.
Okay,
You know,
so
because you
now
got the one third, you're on the one third.
Okay, now I put this.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So try to get a full body shot. Horizontal and vertical. Horizontal and vertical.
为什么有的要从下面张？什么意思？
他要那个角度不同。
是要让我拍起来比较高一点，是吗？哦，太好，太感谢了，你怎么知道了？看到我心里。
We found a model, Kevin. You got any more of your smoke? Okay, one more. Okay, one more. This is a better background. Zoe, you're our model.
Thank you.
Now we're gonna go. Now we're gonna go. Like that.
Teacher 落表，我们都看了。You are the model. You are the model.
其实我觉得在那个有光的光影的地方拍的挺好的。他现在是扣头。
What I would do is I would do this like that. You know, I would you kind of like cut it down. That's alright. Subject next week. But what I want you to do is I just want to get you to the 1/3. If you guys can practice the being in the 1/3.
You want her to be 1/3 of what's on the car?
Don't worry about the car.
Oh.
Yeah, don't worry about the car. So now what you guys want to do is just, okay. Let's take 2 people sitting on the chair. Let's get 2 people. You, you and where's Anna?
他的构图方向我还是不了解。
坐左边。
2 people. Okay, who's gonna be?
A model.
Where's your wife or your girlfriend? We need 2 people. Come on, somebody else is move over this way. Okay, everybody's embarrassed. Just one person.
Just one.
It's like this. Okay, 1/3. He's gonna be on a 1/3. If you shoot over here, make sure it's horizontal. Horizontal.
Everybody.
Oh, you know what? Why don't you sit over here because the garbage can is hard.
什么？
Yeah.
这边因为赶紧。
垃圾桶。
Pretty soon he's gonna start charging. My God.
5块一个人啊。
笑也不笑还给你。
哇，so handsome。
严肃一点，就酷一点。这么严肃。
Think about it. You're just doing it, right? You need to take. Last year, I took 22,000 pictures. This year, I've already taken 8,000 pictures. So that's how much practice I get. Okay, that's why I'm just kind of like relating to you what I do. Today, where's Lisa?
Oh, sorry. We try to add to.
Okay.
So we can inform everybody about what's next.
Today, at 8:30 in the morning, I was out there at the Springs Preserve. I took some pictures for the Australian, New Zealand Army Corps. They have the in memoriam of some of the soldiers that died in World War I. Every year, they remember. They haven't forgotten. Every year for the past 100 years, they have celebrated this memoriam worldwide. Okay? So now, we're gonna, I think there's a switch.
Oh. So you want me to tell them about this today? 8:30?
Yeah, at 8:30 I went to the Springs Preserve.
他就说今天早上他经常是出去采风了。他今天早上8点半他就跑去一个Spring Reserve 的这么一个地方，给大家就是像公园一样，还有人家的park spring.
Yeah, but that's where the memoriam is for the Australian, New Zealand Army Corps.
OK， 他就说这个地方呢是相当于一个就是墓地，但是是士兵的墓地，这个纪念军人的墓地，但是那个军人不是美国的军人哈，是澳大利亚的还有其他一些国家的，那个非常漂亮，他就经常会各个地方去采风。
I'm gonna show you some of the pictures that I took over at the Red Rock Mountain in this Australian thing this morning. Kevin, how do we turn this thing on? Did you turn it on already?
他给你们看一下那个照片啊，就是他今天去在红石公园那个地方，就是他说的那个 Spring Reserve 就在红石公园内在那儿拍的一些照片。
Yeah, the next time, invite your friends. So the more people learn, you're going to have a lot of fun when you go out, when you learn something new. It's just like cooking. You know, when you start cooking better, you want to share it with your friends. But see, you guys already forgot my request. I told you every time that we have a workshop or a meeting, somebody has to bring a bottle of wine. So after the workshop, we all get to relax.
This is a good idea.
Yeah.
You can try.
Oh,
Somebody else.
we have wine.
Oh, okay, there you go. Then we're gonna have after that. Is it on? Oh, okay. I'm gonna show you a couple of things, okay? Okay. This was the photos I took today, this morning. See, I'll show you how to put the focus in. Okay? Normally, this is the way I process it. I want to focus your attention on this area right here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is this. See, take a look at that. So where does your eye go when you look at the picture? You're going to take a look at this side, right? A little bit. But your eyes will eventually end up here. Right? So this is basically what I've been teaching you. See, this thing is on the third. 1/3 here, 1/3 here.
看不清楚，我在那调那个，我在调那个 focus， 你又看不见。OK，sorry。对对，What did you say？
他在教我们构图。
I'm trying to
composition.
We're trying to put the focus. Where's the focus in this picture? See, I did this. See, without this, I will remove this, okay?
哦 ，OK。他现在在教你们这个就是后期制作的一些东西。现在给你看，他说他现在聚焦距在什么地方？他现在把那个手移到刚才那个地方，他就是在那儿聚焦就聚到那个地方。What's this one?
This is just a plant, just trying to show you guys how to put the focus. See that everything is bright, right?
Right.
So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to darken it a little bit so that the focus will be over here on this side.
哦 ，OK。
Okay.
他说他这样子让你们想集中你们的那个视野到这个地方的时候，如果他觉得这个很好，他想突出这一部分，那他就要把这一块把它打亮，其他地方都会把它暗下去。
See now all of a sudden your
这
eyes
样的话，你看你这眼睛就肯定就往那儿看。哎，对对对，有重点，就是有层次感。
And then take a look at the way I place this photo.
啊
Take a look at the way I place this photo.
OK， 他说你们看见他这个图这么放在这里，就是1/2的那种，不是9/3格的，是4格的。
Okay, where is this guy?
他说现在这个人在什么
He's not in the middle, right?
？Yeah。
Where is he at? He's on the 1/3, right?
1/3。
Okay. See, this is the way I'm talking about. If you want to really increase the intensity of the focus into this guy, is all I have to do is like really darken the sides, like.
他说这个人现在是在1/3的这个地方，他说但是现在呢，我还想再突出一下这个人，他的。
Now all of a sudden your eyes is really focused in that, but your eyes will wander, right?
他把其他的地方就是有个层次感，就是突出了这一部那个主人公啊，他想要大家看的那个主人公的那一部分，其他的就是暗出来。
Right. Oh, here, this is the photo. See, even this lady right here, she's not in the middle, but she's on that 1/3 that I'm talking about, right? So never put the subject in the middle.
他说他从来不把这些人放在正中，所以你看他还是在偏的，并不是在正中。
See, like here, your eyes is led to her, because everybody's kind of like looking over this way, right?
他说每个人都在看，他说这个他是把那个左边的那位女士是作为重心来看，他说大家眼睛向往那儿看，就会往这边看。
Even here, this is just a simple shot, but it's on the 1/3.
这个是很简单的拍的，但是也是在用1/3的这个人脸来做。
Like here, it's a strong thing.
这也是1/3。
1/3.
对，1/3。
See, the focus is right on this guy.
他说你可以看得到那个人是他的重点，他这张图所要表达的。
See, here's another one right here. You don't put it in the middle, right? So
但是
now,
不是在正中。
okay, now I'm going to show you something. Okay. See, these are the shots that I did, right? 1/3.
他说这个1/3我本来没看出来，他说是上下的1/3。这边也是对，他就是上下之间的1/3， 是想着看着左右。
See that? They're over here on the side, right?
对。
And then they're above that half, right?
所以他说现在他们是头都在这个一半以上，然后他们是在靠右的地方。
It's not exactly putting it on the 1/3, but it has to be around that area.
他说也不是完完全全的1/3，但是是在那个附近，在那附近。所以我就有的时候看到别的时候，不是1/3，不敢说。I said I wasn't trying to say it because some of them doesn't look like it's 1/3. It's not 1/3, but you're right. You know, it's near it. Yeah.
Yeah. Right there, not exactly, but take a look at this. How pretty it is.
他说不是完完全全很正确的、精确的在1/3的点，但是在那个往那个方向去。
对，靠。
对对。
这样就行。
See, they're off the middle, but their head is like around the 1/3 up, right? See, your eyes kind of like look around here, and then you're looking at the background, but you eventually it would lead here.
你说你会在旁边去看，最后你还会，最后就看到正中那个地方。
Right there, see? This is what I was showing you outside. It's okay to put them in the middle, but their head has to be somewhere. Because the focal point is their faces, not really their body. You're looking here, so you don't want to put it, I'll show you how it is when we put it in the middle. See, this is the whole picture. It's going to look different if I put it, like say, if I put it right in the middle right here. Take a look at this, okay? I'm just going to show you an example.
看一下不同的
It doesn't look good, right?
说这样就不好看了，它看上去很奇怪。
But it
你
looks
看
much
他如果
good.
对，他说你这样看就觉得很奇怪了。
See that crosshair? Do you see that crosshair?
Yeah.
Okay. See that where I'm
你
placing
看
it?
他
That's
把
what I
这
was
个移
doing.
来移去，就说我们把它剪下来，把它剪到正中的时候，你觉得很难受。
That's what I'm
然后
doing.
这样的话，他说这是他剪的，他剪的就是这个稍微高一点，超过1/3的这个部位。
That's what I look for all the time when I'm doing my processing.
他说他在他构图的时候，他会检查这一点，他是从来都不会停止的，一直都会。
Okay, take a look at this. See this thing, the plants lead you to them.
他说你看下面这个草啊植物的时候，就会不断的，你就会往上看，你就会看，最后就是引导你们就看到这上面两个人物。
See, it's on the 1/3. See that?
那这也是1/3。
This girl is Judge Cedric Kern's daughter. I don't know if you guys know who Judge Cedric Kern is, but he's a judicial judge here.
她是一个法官的女儿，但是不知道你们知不知道这位法官？法官的名字他刚才提了，如果你们知道的话，就是他的女儿，魏东文。
Yeah. Yeah, take a look at this. Take a look how pretty this thing is. Right, take a look at the effect.
就是看一下这个。
You guys are getting an idea, right?
你们现在有点印象吧，有点感觉了吧？就给你们看了这么多。
他那个逆光拍的吧是？
他现在不讲逆光，他现在是讲的是构图。He's asking another question.
Okay.
This is look like it's what do you call it? Against. Reflection. Yeah, the against the light. You know.
Yeah, this is.
Oh wait, right. It's not the face the light, against the light.
This is when you use the flash. See, you put the light behind.
Right.
Okay, the sun is behind it.
Right.
If you took it with your regular and you didn't have a flash, it's not going to look like this. So now I have a flash. This is let me take
No,
it back.
this is that's what I told him. I said, yes, this is an unrelated question for this. We were talking about composition, but yes, he's right.
No. Yeah, and even, I'm sorry, this is not a flash. It's just, in fact, this was this reflector right here.
他说的，你说的是对的，是逆光彩的，就是用我刚才说的那个反光板来打，反光板用反光板的作用来做的。
That was showing you by the window.
我记得我刚才在那儿去拍的那一个。Yes.
I will show you how, because one of these pictures, I think he was in there hanging there. Let me find his picture.
这因为你不知道嘛。So now he understands. Well, he's doing things like against the light, how to deal with it. He said he did many of those, never come out right. So now he understands. He knows now.
Hanging there, looking for the picture that they actually shows. It shows the parents holding the reflector. Oh, here. Let me show you. Right there. That's Judge Kearns, right there. He's holding the reflector. Can you see
你
it?
现在可以看到这个，that's his father, her father, right?
Yeah.
他的父亲，这个法官就在旁边帮他作证，他这手里拿的就是这个反光板。他就想给你看一下，他找这张照片就给你看一下他。
They're holding the reflector and it's bouncing on her face and her face.
他说这个反光板呢反到他的脸上，然后另外旁边那个女孩的脸上。
Did you see that effect now?
Yeah.
And then this is actually it right here.
这张照片就是刚才你看到那张照片的结果。
Because if the reflector was not there, this side of the face and that side of the face would have been extremely dark.
就是如果没有那块反光板的话，这个她的脸的应该是左侧，两个女孩的左侧的脸会非常的黑暗，非常的暗。
But this is my favorite picture right here. We're gonna go. By the way, we're gonna schedule. This is where we're gonna go in this area right here.
他说这个到时候他会带大家去采访。
A few weeks from now, this
他
is
会带大
where
家去这里去采访。
we're gonna go there about this time of the day, because that is when the sun is low.
他说带你们去的时候大概是这种时间，就是现在这个时间。为什么呢？就是这是在太阳下山。
iPhone
它的
5S.
ISO 是160哈。
It tells you the
也告诉
camera
你这是 iPhone 的拍的照片，而且是 iPhone 5S。
But take a look
iPhone
at
5S。
But take a look at this. If I blow it up.
他说，但是如果它放大了以后，它的像素也是相当不错的。Not bad, pretty good.
Take a look at the. See,
他
this is
说
what
它
I'm
的
talking
iPhone
about.
的也是不错的，就是清晰度是相当不错。
This is a pretty big
它已经
print.
放得很大了。
This is I'll tell you how big of a print this is.
Did you use
还是很清
flash?
晰。
Did you use flash?
No, this is like 20 inches by about 30 inches. That's how big this
So you
is.
didn't
If you
use the
printed
flash?
it, it would have been this wide and this wide. It is not the camera that you use, it's the camera, how you take the picture. Because if this was blurred,
If you want to come into this class, you'll learn, right?
if you, again, see you can blow this up big for the reason that take a look how sharp that is. If you didn't move, you know?
So did you use flash?
No.
It's at the office, but it has the lights, right?
Yeah. Like this.
Oh.
But that's an iPhone. You don't tell me that you cannot take good pictures with iPhones. Okay? Because like I said, when I go to I've taken pictures at Beverly Hills, at over at Disneyland, SeaWorld, Carlsbad with my iPhone S. That 5S. So that camera is a good camera if you're patient with it. iPhones are very slow, so you have to put your finger on a spot where you want it to focus. and you leave it there until it focuses. Once it's focused, then you hold it very steady and then you click. But don't just click. You have to wait until the camera focuses
你
where
要
you
用
want it to
iPhone 照
focus.
相的时候呢，就是不是说你拿起来对准了人就啪就照进去了。你对准人以后，你用手指在你要聚焦的那个地方点一下，它就会去聚焦到那个你要看到的那个地方。然后这样呢，手别动，尽量不要产生震动，然后再去拍，就会拍的效果会比较好。
Okay, watch this. See, this is I'm playing with this photo, and then what I did was I put it on a tripod because I'm gonna do a panorama, white panorama, right? That's the first picture.
他说他现在照的这个照片呢是拍了一组这个照片。
This is the second picture.
这是第二张。
This is the third
这
picture.
是第三张。
We're hanging there. Let me see if I can find where I connected all of them. I put it in a Photoshop and I connected all of them.
他现在拍了这一组照片之后呢，他把在他这个软件里头把它们全部连在一起，成为一张很大的照片。大家可以看一下。
Let's see. Take a look how big the file is. 22 megabytes.
他说他这张照片的像素很大，占很大的资料。
Okay, here.
那时候就想不起来。
Right there.
你看一下，你可以看到它左边这个就是第一张照片，中间这是第二张照片，然后那个第三张照片，他照了好几张照片，然后呢，在这个后期制作的时候拼成一张照片。
See how I put I stitched all the photos. I took this photo, that photo, and this photo.
你看它下面，它给你点了这个第一张、第二张、第三张，然后他把它们全部连在一起，成为一张照片。
I put it all together. So now this is what we're gonna do when you have all your outfits, Kevin. See this stitch? We're gonna make prints that are like about 2 feet by 6 feet or by 8 feet.
So what? 2 feet by 8 feet for what?
No, we're gonna make prints. When we
When
we start shooting your outfits, the cultural stuff, we're gonna have prints. We're gonna print it 2 feet high and then about 7 feet wide. This is how it's going. This is even longer. This could have been 2 feet by like about 12 feet.
这时候有的时候我们去拍一些活动的时候，就说那活动的场景其实是很大的，但是你一张照片根本就拍不下去。那我们就用这种方式呢，多拍几张，然后把它连成一起，然后一张给人一个图，很大，可以变成是很大很长的图。
Mr. Becker, you need a special software to do this?
Photoshop.
叫 Photoshop， 就是 PS。你经常听到人家说，你这个图是不是 PS？ 我是不是 P 过的？ P 过的是指的这个软件，这是这个不是免费的，这是专业的摄影师用的。
This one I'm trying to put together, but I haven't put together this picture like this. This is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, and this is 5.
你现在看他拍了5张照片哈，
I'm gonna
他
connect
的
it
1、2、3、4、5
all together.
张照片，他把它们全部拼在一起，换成一张照片哈。
See now, as I teach you guys, okay, when we start doing pictures, I don't think that you will be able to do it, but you certainly can take the picture and I can process it.
他说呢，就是说将来大家也可以拍这种照片，但是你们没有办法做一个专业软件，但是呢，你们可以拍完了他帮你们做。
Yes, so now you go to all the Chinese restaurants and then we'll show them a picture of this wide panoramic and they're going to say, I want one of those.
他说你要是去这个华人餐馆去拍一张很多照片拍，然后他给你弄出一张非常这个高大上的一张很宏伟的那个照片，我想拍几次。
And then pretty soon.
但是这个 回答这样，我跟大家讲一下哈，就是说你们今天这是第一堂课哈，所以不是一天就能吃一个大胖子哈，我们慢慢来。经常老师都会教课哈，经常到华雅来哈，我们这个摄影学会，这个是我们新会长哈，刚刚上任吧，就讲1-2个星期前哈。
This is gonna be our next project because I have the outfits. This is the Roaring 20s.
Okay, so hold on one second. I'm just trying to introduce them. I said, we're not going to eat one big huge giant in one day. We're going to come here often. We're going to see you a lot and just introduce them a little bit about you. Some of them is come here first time. So I'm just introducing you to the new president of this club. So,
so we're going to do photo shoots like this.
Yeah, I'm going to tell them we're not going to learn everything in one day. We're going to slow down and we will have some introduction for what you're going to come next, but we're not going to detail it was we're not going to get out of here. So,
our next photo shoot will be like the Roaring 20s, you know, like.
他说下一堂课呢，我们要教这种，就是造一个就是很仿古的古典，像那个20年代的那种造型。那时候相机刚刚出来。
This is the look that we're gonna do.
他说这就是我们要照的那种感觉，下一次就教这个哈。所以呢，对，不是光是老上海了，是老世界，老世界。就是说跟大家解释一下，就是说这个他是刚刚上任的新的这个我们这个摄影学会的会长。然后呢，今天是第一堂课，对，今天是第一堂课。这个会长呢，他的背景，对，是我们就是华雅这里的摄影协会的会长。然后这个会呢，这个协会呢还跟夏威夷的总会还是有连线的。刚刚这个对这个我们华雅的协会的，我们华雅会长 Kevin 在那边，这是会长。那是华亚的会长，是华亚协会下的摄影协会的会长。对，华亚底下有很多的各种各样的学会，会和班，还有不同的组，还有一些什么介绍华亚了。
Lisa, tell them that we're gonna take it slowly. Every a few weeks, we're gonna have a lesson because it takes. I've been doing this thing for 40 years.
I know. You can't tell them in one day.
Yeah, it's like we'll do it very slow. Like to me, this is like instinctive. I don't think about this thing. It just kind of like, this is the look that I want.
Yeah, like I took a picture. I don't know how to explain it. You explained it. It's like, oh, okay, this is why I took it. I know this look better. It's like, oh, that's why.
Yeah, and then now we have 2 big projects coming up. In fact, 3. That if you really sincerely want to learn, I'm going to be taking pictures of the Foodie Fest at the Rio, okay? And then there's going to be the Manny Pacquiao fight is on May 2. There are probably going to be 80,000 people that go in and out of that place. So you got to bring your camera and then you got to take pictures of what you learned today on how to compose. It didn't matter what you take a picture of. You take a picture of the subject, there's going to be a lot of food trucks, there's going to be a ton of people in there, you know, there's going to be the VIP, there are beer gardens, name it.
Okay, I'm going to translate.
Yeah, go ahead.
他说我们教你们大家的东西呢，还有很多时候可以去练兵的啊。然后你们尽快学，能学多少学多少，能学多快学多快。那下面呢，马上上来，他说其实他已经有3个活动可以大家去了。然后一个就是一个叫做食物的，拍食物的，就是叫做美食节嘛，相当于是。然后是在 Rio Casino 的，然后他会到时候通知我们。时间他会可以带我们去的都可以带我们去，还有这个拳击赛的 Pacquiao， 他是Pacquiao 他开始了，你是拳击的是吧？
开始。
哦，耶，你是拳击迷是吧？我讲这个名字人都听不懂。 Parker 现在是最火，它是和那个Freeway 的这两个是最大的，现在是世纪之战嘛，他们这两个就是2亿，就是这一场赛2亿。
Manny Pacquiao is a friend of mine, and I go to his.
他说 Pacquiao 是他的朋友，他是他的摄影师啊，所以就是我们这个会长呢，他是很多摄影就是杂志啊，很多活动的主办方的，他都是官方摄影师特邀摄影师哈，官方摄影师也可以做无所谓。然后他们说有很多活动会带我们去。
And then after the Foodie Fest, that is from April the 30th to May the 3rd. We're going to go to the San Gennaro Feast. That's May the 6th to May the 10th. And that's huge.
然后呢，5月6号到5月10号。
Now I'm going to teach you guys how to take pictures of entertainers on stage. Because I'm the main
然后呢，在这
photographer.
个5月6号到10号的是一个印度美食节，然后他会教大家怎么样拍一下这个舞台上的这些明星们啊，还有就表演的这些演出的人员，怎么样去拍他们的照片。
Yeah, and then after that, by the end of May, we got the place. They're gonna open up the what do you call this thing? The grand something out there in front of the valleys, and I have a place there. We're gonna sell cotton candies, but that is when we start taking pictures on the strip.
What?
It probably starts on the May the 20th or something like that. May the 20th.
5月到时候会通知大家的哈，这个5月20号到当然大概有好几天的这个活动啊，有很多的，就是有点像那种文化节一样的东西啊，他会教大家怎么样去拍，也会这是你们练兵的时候，到时候练完了之后，拍完的照片他会去看的啊，还会去从里面挑好的，这还会告诉你们拍的好不好。
No, I'm excited about that. Anyways, let me show you a little bit about that. You probably like this. It was called the Grand Bazaar. Right here.
这是一个活动的地图，就是在这个时间地点它的版号的这个它的他现在还没讲是什么。
Yeah, this is Flamingo. This is like Las Vegas Boulevard over here.
Flamingo and what?
Las Vegas Boulevard.
Las Vegas.
And
这个不是 Rio。
yeah.
是那种。
这个是另外一个，
这是另外一个。
And then we're gonna have a place.
Valley.
Yeah.
Is this in the valley?
We're gonna have a place.
Valley Casino.
Yeah, we're gonna have a place. My wife is going to sell the cotton candy.
他说这是一种那种就是很多版的。
She's gonna have a spot right here
What do you call it?
outside.
What do you call that event?
No, it's an event. This is like this is called the Grand Bazaar. This is the brand new bazaar for the bodies.
Grand Bazaar， 它这个 event 叫做 Grand Bazaar， 就是奇物嘛，反正就是什么东西，哎，对，你可以自己去摆摊的，就是大家可以去租一个摊位去摆摊，就是很多人都去摆摊卖他们什么东西，就有点淘宝那种味道，有点像那个我们那个中国城可能是那个就过春节的时候把那个有点那种，有点那个味道，然后大家可以去拍各种各样的东西，有点对象提示，对吧？对，这个也不错。
When we're gonna be there for at least 4 months, okay? That is when we start shooting on the strip.
哦，他们会在那儿待4个月，4 吗？
Yeah.
哇哦，他说这活动会延续4个月。时间，我们会去拍各种各样，还可以拍那个就是拉斯维加斯大道、赌城大道，因为我们拍的比较晚的时候，那个光线很好的时候，他们会教我们怎么样去拍赌城大道的那些景，就是晚景是比较难拍的。一般 刚才说就是非专业的这个摄影人员不知道怎么样把它拍得好，看的是很漂亮，但是不知道怎么拍，他就会教你们怎么拍。
I want you guys to get excited because you're going to learn a tremendous amount of
你们学到拍照就是要不断的拍，你才能拍得好。对，积累经验，对。
You're going to learn a lot. You know, only like keep practicing. You got to keep shooting, you know. What else can I show you before we part? I don't know.
说在我们结束之前，再跟你们想看点，给你们看点啥好呢？
This is okay. I'll give you an example. This is the Fully Fest that I took last October.
但是这是去年10月份他拍的，就是那个夫妻这个一个活动啊，这就是他马上又会去的一个活动。
This is the pictures that I took of the Fully Fest. So now they're going to be at the Rio. So now it's going to be right there on the strip.
夫妻，你说的夫妻，哎。
Not Fully.
夫里面，哎，我的夫妻。是美食节，说错了。我一直在想这是什么活动。
I want you to start. You guys can start taking pictures that look like this now.
他希望你们能拍到这样的照片。
Yeah, you're going to be able to take these pictures if you learn about composition.
他说因为你们现在应该很容易就能拍到这样的照片了，因为你们已经学了构图，应该了解怎么样去拍这样的照片。今天学的应该够。
Here's another picture.
这是另外一个。
This is very easy to take. You guys can take this thing with your iPhone if you know what to do with it. You know. Yeah, but anyway, this is I enjoy the first class.
If we go there, are we getting tickets or we only for free or?
Well, we're going to try to figure that out. I'm going to try to get something from the Fully Fest to let you guys in.
Okay. But if not, how much is the ticket?
I think it's like $7.
我就在问他说，我们要去这个拍这个美食节的话，是我们是能够免费进去的，还是要买门票的？他说他会尽量给我们解决，看能解决多少。我说如果不可以的话，那应该是多少钱是门票？他说大概7块钱左右。
And some of you guys who really want to take pictures, you will see me take pictures of thousands of people coming in, and then you can sit in. You know what? You can use my camera while it's set up on a tripod, and I will show you what to do with it. And I will get the people in there, put them in a position where you take the picture, so you get the feel of it. It's different when you're around people, okay? Because now you have to tell them what to do.
这个实战里面会讲一些，就是说关于怎么样去拍这些游人的照片。他呢会带着他的相机和他的那些所有的器材，然后你们大家没有的呢，也可以用他的相机，他会把它设好，先把它设置好了，然后呢，他会把这些人放到这个镜头里让你们来拍。
Thank you so much.